The stranger in the alley. The city was alive with noise, lights, and countless alien voices. Merchants shouted from their stalls, selling glowing fruits, steaming bowls of broth, and strange mechanical toys. Shoppers bargained loudly. Children ran past, and guards in heavy armor walked with no concern. Among them all walked a lone human traveler, carrying almost nothing with him. His boots were dusty from long journeys, and his jacket was worn from the road. He had only one thing left from his home on Earth, a single chocolate bar. It was old, wrapped carefully in silver paper, but still untouched. He had saved it for hard times, or maybe just for comfort. In this vast alien world, the taste of chocolate was the last piece of Earth he had. As he moved through the busy streets, his stomach growled. He had not eaten much that day, only scraps he could afford with his last few credits. The chocolate bar in his pocket felt heavier than gold. He thought of opening it, just one bite to silence his hunger. But he hesitated, knowing that once it was gone, it would be gone forever. He walked deeper into the city, where the bright lights faded into dim alleys. The laughter of the crowd grew distant, replaced by dripping pipes and the soft hum of neon signs. There in the shadows, he noticed a small figure. It was a girl, an alien girl, sitting on the cold stone ground. Her clothes were torn and dirty, her arms wrapped around her thin body for warmth. Her skin had a faint silver-blue glow under the dim lights. Her large eyes shimmered as if they held starlight, though now they were heavy with hunger. Her hair fell in messy strands over her face, and her lips trembled from the cold. She looked too weak to move, too exhausted even to beg. But the people passing by glanced at her with disgust. One alien spat on the ground near her, calling her worthless. Another sneered, muttering that she should be taken away before she died on the street. The human stopped in his tracks, his chest tightening at the sight. It was strange. He had seen beggars before, both human and alien, but something about her was different. She was small, fragile, and utterly ignored by the world around her. Yet in her eyes, there was a quiet dignity, a silent strength hiding beneath the weakness. He slowly approached, kneeling down in front of her. The girl flinched, expecting another cruel word or kick. Instead, she saw a hand holding out a silver-wrapped bar. Her eyes widened in disbelief. The human unwrapped the chocolate bar, snapping it into two halves. He placed one half gently into her trembling hands. She stared at it as if it were a jewel. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Only a small gasp. The human smiled softly. "Go on, it's food. Eat," he said. Her fingers shook as she brought the piece to her lips. The moment she tasted it, her eyes filled with light. She chewed slowly, savoring every bite as if she feared it might vanish. Tears welled in her eyes, but she quickly blinked them away. When she finished, she looked at him with wonder. Why would you give this to me?" she whispered, her voice delicate but strange. The human shrugged, trying to act casual. "Because you looked like you needed it more than me." Her lips curved into the faintest smile, a smile that seemed too gentle, too graceful for someone dressed in rags. He ate his half quickly, but his mind was fixed on her. The city noise faded as he watched her carefully lick the last crumbs from her fingers. Something about her presence felt unusual. She was not like other beggars he had seen in his travels. Even sitting in filth, even with dirt covering her skin, she carried herself differently. There was a quiet grace in the way she held the food, a stillness in her posture, as if she was someone born for something greater, now hidden beneath the disguise of a starving girl. Before he could ask more, a faint shadow moved nearby. Two cloaked figures stood at the mouth of the alley, watching them with unreadable eyes. The human noticed them, but when he turned fully, they had already vanished into the crowd. A chill ran down his spine. He looked back at the girl, who was still staring at him. Her eyes glimmered strangely, as though she knew something he did not. For a moment, it felt like giving her that chocolate bar had unlocked something bigger, something he could not yet see. But he pushed the thought aside, rising to his feet. The girl whispered softly, "Thank you, human," her voice almost royal in its tone. He gave a small nod, unaware that this single act of kindness would soon pull him into a story far greater than he ever imagined. A smile that hid secrets. The next morning, the human rose early, his stomach still empty but his mind restless. He kept thinking about the little alien girl in the alley, her silver blue skin glowing faintly under the weak lights and her wide eyes when he shared his last food. He told himself it was nothing, just an act of kindness. But something about her stayed in his thoughts. He wandered through the streets again, this time more carefully, blending with the crowd. The city was always alive, merchants shouting, strange machines buzzing, guards moving in groups. But he felt as if the world had slowed since last night. At the edge of the market square, he saw her again. She was sitting on the steps of a stone fountain, watching the people pass. This time she didn't look so weak. Her face had a touch of color after the food he had given her. When she noticed him, her eyes widened, and a small smile spread across her lips. It wasn't the broken smile of a beggar. It was something warmer, something that carried a hidden strength. She rose to her feet and walked toward him, every step light and careful. Even in her ragged clothes, there was grace in the way she moved. The human couldn't explain, but she looked less like a lost child and more like someone pretending to be one. "You came back," she said softly, her voice calm but filled with surprise. He gave a small laugh. "I guess I did." Her eyes lowered to the ground, but her faint smile remained. "No one comes back for me, not even once." The words cut deeper than he expected. He tilted his head, curious now. "Why do you say that?" The girl shrugged, but her movements were too careful, too deliberate. "Because people only see what they want, and they never want to see me." Her voice carried wisdom beyond her years, like she had lived far more than her young face suggested. They sat by the fountain together, and the girl kept her gaze on the crowd. She pointed at the stalls filled with food. "They have so much, yet they leave me to starve." Her voice was neither angry nor bitter, only calm, as though it were simply a truth she had accepted. The human frowned. "That doesn't make it right." She turned her head, her eyes shining with a strange intensity. "Why does it matter to you?" He was caught off guard. "Because no one deserves to be left like that." The girl studied him for a long time, her expression unreadable. Then, slowly, she said, "You're not like the others. You're different." The human chuckled, uneasily. "I don't know about that." But her gaze didn't waver, and it made him feel exposed, as if she could see something deep inside him. She tilted her head, then whispered, "Where do you come from?" "Earth," he answered without thinking, and her eyes widened. Her lips parted slightly as if she wanted to say something but stopped herself. Instead, she smiled again, this time fuller, brighter, but still with that hidden mystery. It was the kind of smile that made him wonder if she knew something he didn't, and in truth she did. As they spoke, the human noticed something odd. The way she chose her words was too refined, too polished, unlike the broken speech of street children. Her posture, even while sitting on stone steps, was upright and poised. Her eyes followed movements with calm precision, not desperation. She was not what she appeared to be, and the human could sense it. But before he could ask, her small hand reached out and touched his. "You gave me food yesterday, but more than that, you gave me something I had forgotten," she whispered. "What's that?" he asked, curious. Her eyes softened. "Kindness." The human was silent for a moment. In his travels, he had seen greed, cruelty, and hunger, but rarely this kind of honesty. The girl's words stayed with him, wrapping around his heart like a thread. He wanted to ask who she really was, why she was here. But before he could speak, a sound interrupted them. The sharp clang of boots on stone echoed from the street nearby. 2 armored guards marched past, their eyes scanning the crowd. The girl instantly tensed, her smile fading. Her hand slipped away from his, and her shoulders stiffened. She looked like prey that had just seen a hunter. The human noticed the fear in her eyes, but he kept quiet. The guards didn't notice them and continued on their path. Still, the girl didn't relax, her hands trembling slightly. "You're afraid of them," he said quietly. She glanced at him but said nothing, her lips pressed tightly. It was clear she had secrets bigger than a starving girl in rags. The human leaned back, watching her carefully. If she was hiding something, he decided it was not his place to force it out. But a part of him wanted to know more, needed to know more. As the sun set, the sky painted the city in deep shades of purple and gold. The girl rose to leave, but before she stepped away, she looked at him again. This time her smile was softer, almost sad. "Thank you for coming back," she whispered, and then she walked into the crowd, her figure fading among the alien shapes and lights. The human sat alone by the fountain, his mind full of questions. She was poor, yes, but her smile, her voice, her presence told him she was more than that. The chase in the market. The market was alive with voices the next day. Bright fabrics waved in the breeze, steam rose from cooking pots, and strange glowing animals were sold in cages. The human walked slowly through the crowd, still thinking about the alien girl with the silver blue skin. Her words from yesterday echoed in his mind. "You're different," she had said, and he could not forget the way she smiled. He wondered who she really was, why she was alone, and why the guards made her so afraid. As he passed a stall selling fruit that shimmered like glass, he heard a sound that made his heart stop. It was a scream, high-pitched and full of fear. The human turned quickly and saw her, the girl, running through the crowd, her ragged clothes whipped in the air as she shoved past merchants and shoppers. Behind her came soldiers in black armor, their boots striking hard against the stone, their voices shouting, "Stop her! Catch the runaway!" The crowd scattered in panic. Stalls were knocked over, fruit and tools rolling across the ground. The girl darted left, then right, searching for an escape, but the soldiers were faster, closing in on her. The human's eyes met hers for a brief moment, and he saw pure terror inside them. Without thinking, he stepped forward, his instincts taking over. She stumbled and nearly fell, crashing into his chest. "Please," she gasped, clutching at his jacket. "Don't." "Let them take me." The soldiers rushed toward them, their weapons raised. "Step aside, human," one of them barked. "That girl is dangerous. She must be taken in." The human's heart pounded, his thoughts racing. She looked weak, scared, and helpless. How could she be dangerous? He tightened his grip on her shoulder and shook his head. "No," he said firmly. "She's just a child. Leave her alone." The crowd gasped, merchants froze, and silence hung heavy in the air. The guards growled, "Do not interfere. She is wanted for crimes you do not understand." But the human refused to move, placing himself between the girl and the armored figures. For a tense moment, no one moved. Only the hum of energy weapons filled the space. The girl clung to him, trembling, and whispered, "If they take me, I'll never come back." That was enough. The human grabbed her hand and pulled her into the maze of the market, running as fast as his legs could carry him. Shouts erupted behind them. "Stop them! Stop the human!" Blaster fire hissed past, burning holes through cloth stalls and wooden carts. The two of them dodged between tables, jumped over baskets, and slipped through gaps in the crowd. Merchants shouted in anger. Goods spilled across. The ground and the market became chaos. The girl struggled to keep up, her breath sharp and shallow, but she never let go of his hand. Her skin was warm against his, pulsing with strange energy he couldn't explain. They turned down a narrow street lined with broken lamps, but the soldiers were still close behind. The human pulled her into a side alley, their footsteps echoing against the stone walls. The alley ended in a dead wall, and for a moment fear washed over him. But the girl pointed to a crack between two buildings, barely wide enough for them. He didn't hesitate. He squeezed through, dragging her along. On the other side, they spilled into another street, hidden for now, but he knew they didn't have much time. The girl collapsed against the wall, panting hard, her eyes wide. "Why are they after you?" he asked urgently. Her lips trembled, and for a second she looked like she wanted to speak, but instead she whispered, "If I tell you, you won't believe me." "Try me," he said, his voice firm. But before she could answer, distant shouts echoed again. The soldiers were spreading out, hunting them through the city. The human glanced around quickly, his mind racing. He had no plan, no allies, and no safe place to go. Yet something inside told him that leaving her behind wasn't an option. Her small hand reached for his again, her eyes pleading. He sighed heavily. All right, we'll figure this out, but we need to keep moving. They darted through another maze of backstreets, past shuttered doors and broken machines. Every corner felt dangerous, every shadow a trap. Still, the human pushed forward, his grip on her hand never loosening. The girl said nothing, but her eyes never left him. It was as if she was waiting, watching, testing him. And in her silence, he felt the weight of a secret too large for words. At last, they reached the edge of the city where the bright markets faded into ruins. The buildings were cracked, the lights broken, and the air filled with the smell of rust. Here, few people wandered, only shadows and silence. The human guided her into an abandoned doorway, where they crouched low and listened. Boots clanged in the distance, voices barked orders, but none came close. For now, they were safe. The girl leaned against the wall, clutching her chest, her breath still uneven. He knelt beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. It's okay. We're safe. For now. She looked at him with wide eyes, shimmering in the dim light. Her lips trembled as she whispered, You shouldn't have helped me, now you're in danger too. The human smiled faintly, shaking his head. Maybe. But I couldn't just stand there. For a moment, silence filled the ruined space, broken only by their breaths, and then the girl's lips curved into the smallest smile. It was a smile that carried both gratitude and sorrow. A smile that hid secrets too heavy for a child. The human didn't know it yet, but by refusing to hand her over, he had crossed a line. There was no turning back, and the real chase had only begun. Hunted across the city. The ruins at the city's edge were quiet, but the silence was uneasy. The human and the alien girl crouched inside the doorway of a broken building, listening for the heavy steps of soldiers. The girl's small chest rose and fell quickly, her eyes darting to every sound. The human put a finger to his lips, telling her to stay quiet. Outside, distant voices shouted orders. The soldiers were spreading out, sweeping the area street by street. He knew they could not stay in the ruins for long. He looked around and spotted a half-buried stairway leading underground. Without wasting a moment, he took her hand and pulled her down into the dark. The air was damp and the walls were lined with pipes, dripping water in steady beats. The girl's glowing skin gave a faint light, enough for them to see. They followed. The tunnel deeper, their footsteps echoing faintly. After what felt like hours, they stopped in a small chamber. The smell of old machinery surrounding them. The human leaned against the wall, catching his breath. He looked at her carefully, her face lit softly by her own glow. Now, he said, his voice steady but firm, you have to tell me the truth. Why are they after you? The girl lowered her head, her hands trembling in her lap. For a long moment she said nothing, only silence filled the chamber. Finally she whispered, Because I am not who they think I am, and not who you think I am either. The human frowned, confused. What do you mean? She lifted her head, and for the first time her eyes carried not just fear but sorrow and pride mixed together. My name is Leora, she said softly. I am the daughter of the High Ruler of this world. The words hit him like a thunderclap. He blinked in disbelief, shaking his head. You? But you were in the street, starving, wearing rags. She nodded slowly. They put me there. Her voice cracked. When the empire fractured, those who wanted power plotted against my family. They tried to erase me, to make me vanish. The human stared at her, his heart racing. The girl he thought was a beggar was no ordinary child. She was a princess, hidden in plain sight. Her posture, her refined speech, her secret glances, all of it made sense now. She continued, her voice trembling. They want me dead because if I return, my people will rally behind me and their plans will fail. Her hands tightened into fists. Everywhere I go, they hunt me, they call me worthless, they let me starve, hoping no one will see me for who I am. Tears slid down her cheeks, glowing faintly like drops of light. The human felt his chest tighten. He knelt down in front of her, meeting her gaze. And yesterday, when I gave you food, that was the first time someone treated you like more than a target, wasn't it? She nodded, covering her face with her hands. Yes. For a moment, silence hung between them, broken only by the dripping pipes. The human leaned back, running, a hand through his hair, a princess hunted by soldiers carrying the weight of a broken empire. This was far bigger than anything he wanted. He could walk away, leave her here, pretend he never saw her. But when he looked at her again, small and trembling yet holding so much strength inside, he knew he couldn't. He had already made his choice when he broke his chocolate bar in half. Listen, he said firmly, you're not alone anymore. I'll help you no matter what it takes. Her eyes widened, shimmering in the dim light. No, she whispered, shaking her head. If you stay with me, they will kill you too. The human gave a faint smile. Maybe, but I'd rather face them than watch you fall. Her lips trembled as if she wanted to protest, but instead, a small sound escaped her. Half sob, half laugh. For the first time since he met her, he saw hope flicker in her eyes. Before either of them could say more, a sharp sound echoed through the tunnels. The clang of metal boots, the low growl of voices. The soldiers had found the stairway and they were coming closer. The girl froze, panic in her face. The human grabbed her hand quickly. Come on, we can't stay here. They ran deeper into the tunnels, their footsteps splashing through shallow puddles. The dim glow of her skin lit the way, casting strange shadows on the walls. The revelation. The night air was sharp, carrying the distant hum of the city. The human and Leora crouched behind the crumbling wall, their chests rising and falling with exhaustion. The warehouse was far behind them now, but the memory of betrayal clung to the air like smoke. Leora's hands still trembled from the surge of power she had released, her glowing skin dimming slowly as the energy faded. The human kept his eyes on the dark streets ahead, listening for the soldiers, his jaw tight with determination. For hours they moved through the ruins, slipping between shadows and broken towers. At last, the ground opened to a wide street, leading to the edge of the royal quarter. Here, tall spires rose like silver spears against the sky, glowing faintly in the starlight. The human stopped, realizing where they were. Leora looked at the towers, her eyes wide, her breath unsteady. My home, she whispered, her voice heavy with both longing and fear. The human turned to her, frowning. If we go there, won't they expect it? She nodded slowly. Yes, but if I don't return, my people will never know the truth. Her lips trembled. I can't keep hiding forever. The human studied her for a long moment, then placed a hand on her shoulder. Then let's finish this, he said firmly. They slipped through hidden paths until they reached the gates. The guards at the walls spotted them immediately, shouting alarms. Bright lights flared, and armored soldiers stormed forward, blasters ready. The human pulled Leora behind him, but she stepped forward, her glow returning, stronger this time. No, she said, her voice ringing clear in the night. I will not run anymore. The soldiers froze, their weapons raised. The glow from her body spread brighter, her silver blue skin shimmering like liquid light. Gasps rippled through the ranks, some soldiers lowering their weapons as recognition struck them. It's her, one whispered. The lost heir. The human glanced at Leora, his heart pounding. She stood tall despite her ragged clothes, her small frame carrying the weight of royalty. Then, from the great gates, a group of figures rushed forward. Loyal, guards who had searched for her in secret. They dropped to their knees before her, their voices trembling. Princess Leora, you live. The human watched in shock as more soldiers fell to their knees, their loyalty stronger than their orders. For the first time, Leora's eyes softened with relief, tears sliding down her glowing cheeks. I was never gone, she said, her voice breaking. You just forgot where to look. The traitors who had hunted her were dragged forward, their leader shouting, "She is dangerous. She will destroy us all." But Leora stepped forward, her voice calm yet powerful. "I am not dangerous because of my power. I am dangerous because of the hope I bring to those who still believe in me." Her words struck the soldiers like lightning, and one by one, they lowered their weapons. The human stood beside her, silent but steady, feeling the weight of the moment. Suddenly, the crowd's eyes turned to him. He shifted uncomfortably, not used to the attention, but Leora walked to him, her glowing, hand reaching for his. "This man saved me when none of you would," she declared, her voice echoing across the courtyard. "He gave me food when I was left to starve. He protected me when you called me worthless, and he risked his life when you called me dangerous." The courtyard was silent, every eye fixed on them. The human swallowed hard, unsure of what to do, but Leora pressed something into his hand, a necklace that glowed faintly with alien light. It shimmered with symbols of her royal line, ancient and powerful. "On my world," she said softly, so only he could hear, "this means loyalty, protection, and bond." Her eyes shimmered with tears. "You shared your last food with me. Now I share my future with you." The human stared at the glowing necklace, his chest heavy with emotions he couldn't put into words. He had never expected that giving away a simple chocolate bar would lead to this moment. Leora turned back, to her people standing tall despite her ragged clothes. "This man is under my protection," she declared. "Any who harm him will answer to me." The loyal guards struck their chests in salute, the courtyard ringing with the sound. The human stood stunned, the necklace warm in his palm. In the distance, dawn began to break, the first light of day, spilling across the city. The people who had once spat on her name now whispered in awe. The girl once ignored, called worthless, now stood as their princess, their hope, their light. And beside her stood a human traveler who had given his last chocolate bar without expecting anything in return. He looked at her, and she smiled at him, soft, full, and real. It was the smile of someone who had been saved not by power, not by armies, but by kindness. The human finally understood. Sometimes the smallest act, one simple gift, could change the fate of an entire world. And, as the city rose with the new sun, he knew his journey with her was only beginning. The marketplace was quiet that evening. Only the sound of wind moving through broken stalls could be heard. Many shops were closed, and most people had gone back to their homes. But in one dark corner, a small figure sat alone. She was thin, her clothes torn, her hands pressed against her stomach as if holding back the hunger inside. The human man, a traveler who had been walking for days, stopped when his eyes fell on her. He had seen poor beggars before, both human and alien. But something about this little girl made him slow his steps. She was different. Her eyes carried a strange sadness, and her body shook as if the cold air was stronger against her than anyone else. Other people walked by, some laughed at her, some called her worthless or poor blood. None offered food or comfort. They simply turned their faces away, as if her suffering was nothing but part of the street itself. The human felt his throat tighten. In his small pack he carried almost nothing now. He had sold his tools for coins, and the only food left with him was a single chocolate bar. It was the last sweet thing he owned. He had been saving it for the long night ahead. Yet as he looked at the girl, her big eyes full of silent begging, his hand moved by itself. He reached, inside the pack, pulled out the bar and crouched down in front of her. "Here," he said softly, holding the bar out. "Take it." The alien girl blinked, her lips parted. Her hands shook as if she did not trust this gift. "For me?" she whispered in broken human tongue. "Yes, for you," the man answered, his voice calm, his eyes kind. Slowly she reached out. Her fingers touched the wrapper. Then she pulled it close as if someone might snatch it away. When she opened the packet and took a small bite, her whole body trembled, her eyes widened in shock. The sweetness filled her mouth and her chest rose with a sharp breath. Tears began to fall down her cheeks as she ate, not from sadness but from something deeper, She had not tasted anything like this before. Maybe she had not eaten properly in many days. The man watched quietly, a strange warmth filling his chest. He had thought the chocolate was his last comfort, but watching her eat it gave him more comfort than eating it himself. Still, he noticed something strange, the way she looked at the bar, as if it was more than food, as if it was something she had only heard about but never touched. From the other side of the street, a few aliens muttered to each other when they saw her eat. Their eyes darted nervously, but when the human turned his head, they looked away quickly and pretended to walk. He frowned. Something about this situation was not normal, but he stayed silent. After finishing half the bar, the girl stopped. She pushed the rest back toward him with shaking hands. "You," she whispered. "Hungry too." The man smiled and pushed it back to her. "No, it's yours now. Eat it." She looked at him for a long moment, her glowing eyes reflecting both gratitude and fear. Finally, she nodded and ate the rest slowly, as if memorizing each bite. When she was done, she wiped her face with her sleeve, then bowed her head. "Thank you, human," she whispered, her voice weak but sincere. The man stood, ready to leave, but something inside held him there. He asked gently, "Where are your parents? Why are you alone?" The girl froze. Her small hands tightened. Her eyes looked to the ground. "Gone," she said softly. "All gone." Before the man could ask more, a sudden noise filled the air. The heavy steps of soldiers echoed through the street. Armored, guards marched into the market, their helmets glowing with red lights. The girl's body stiffened, her eyes wide with panic. She grabbed the man's hand and whispered quickly, "Please, don't tell, please." The man looked at her, confused. "Tell what? Who are they looking for?" One of the guards shouted, holding up a hologram picture in the air. The face on it was small, young, and all too familiar. It was the very same girl who stood beside him. The guard's voice was loud. "Reward for anyone who finds this missing. Child report at once, great wealth will be given." The human's heart pounded, his mouth went dry. He looked down at the girl. She looked back up at him, her glowing eyes filled with fear and tears. In that moment he understood. She was not just a poor alien girl begging in the street. She was someone important, someone the soldiers were desperate to find, and by giving her his last chocolate bar he had already chosen his side. The human stood frozen as the red glow from the soldier's helmet spread across the market. The hologram of the girl's face hovered in the air, flickering with her young features. The people around the stalls turned away nervously. No one dared speak. The girl pressed closer to the man, her small hand gripping his sleeve tightly. Her voice shook as she whispered, "Please don't let them see me." His heart raced. He had never been in such a strange moment before. One part of him wanted to let go, to walk away and leave her. After all, she was not his child, she was not even human. But another part of him, stronger and louder, refused. He could not betray those frightened eyes. The soldiers marched past slowly, their heavy boots striking the stone floor. One stopped near the man, shining a scanner into the shadows. The girl lowered her face against the man's arm, hiding herself. The soldier's light moved away, and soon the group vanished down another street, still shouting their orders. The man released the breath he had been holding, then looked down. At the girl, she was trembling, her wide, glowing eyes staring up at him. "What's going on?" he asked softly. "Why are they after you? Who are you really?" The girl shook her head quickly. No, tell. They kill me if I speak. They kill me if I am found." Her words were broken, but clear enough. The man frowned, his instincts telling him she was hiding something big, something far beyond a simple runaway child. That night, he took her to the small shelter he had rented at the edge of the city, a simple metal room with one bed, a small fire heater, and broken windows patched with cloth. He gave her a blanket and some water. She sat silently, staring at the fire. He watched her carefully, and again he noticed her eyes. They were not like the eyes of other aliens he had seen. Hers carried a soft glow, a shine that seemed alive, like tiny stars trapped inside. "Your eyes," he said slowly. "They're different. They look special." She gasped softly, her small hands moving up to cover her face. She shook her head quickly. Don't say, don't look." "Why?" he asked gently. Her voice cracked. Because if they see my eyes, they know. They know who I am. The human leaned back, suspicion rising stronger now. Who are you? The girl did not answer. She pulled the blanket tighter around herself, whispering, If you know, you die too. Silence filled the small room. The fire crackled. The wind whistled through the cracks in the window. The man sat there, his mind racing. He thought of the soldiers, the reward, the way the people in the market had reacted when they saw her eat. There was fear. There was respect. But not for a poor beggar. It was for something greater. He sighed and rubbed his forehead. Listen, kid. I don't know what kind of trouble you're in, but you're safe here for now. I won't hand you over. Her big eyes lifted toward him, shimmering with disbelief. Why? She asked. Why help me? You give me food. You hide me. You don't even know me. The man smiled faintly. Maybe because when I looked at you, I saw someone who needed help. That's enough for me. Her lips trembled, as if no one had ever said such words to her before. She pulled the blanket higher, but he could still see her cheeks wet with tears. Later, as the night grew deep, heavy footsteps echoed outside the shelter. The man froze. He moved to the window and carefully looked out. A group of guards were searching door by door, their scanners, sweeping the streets. The girl saw them too. She crawled closer, whispering urgently, They come. They come. If they find me. They take me, they kill me. The man's chest tightened. He knew then he had only two choices, hand her over and walk free with a reward, or protect her and make powerful enemies. He turned back to her, his decision burning in his heart. Stay, quiet no matter what, he whispered, pulling her behind the broken shelf in the corner. He placed old cloth over her, hiding her small frame. The soldiers banged on the door. Open up, one shouted. The man stepped forward, forcing his voice. To remain calm, what do you want? Inspection missing child reward for anyone who cooperates, the soldier barked. The man opened the door slowly, letting them inside. Their scanners lit up the small room, sweeping across the bed, the table, the broken floor, one guard's. Light passed dangerously close to the shelf where the girl hid, her breath caught, her body shaking. The human's heart thundered in his chest. He forced a cough, drawing their attention. You think a poor man like me can hide someone? You're wasting time, he said. The guard glared at him, then grunted. If we find out you're lying, you'll pay with your life. Moments later, they left, the sound of their boots fading into the distance. The man shut the door, leaning. Against it with a long sigh of relief, he turned to the shelf. You can come out now. The girl crawled out slowly, her face pale but her eyes shining. She looked at him as if he had just moved a mountain for her. You really protect me, she whispered. Yes, he said simply. I will, until I know the truth. Her glowing eyes locked on his, and for the first time, he felt a strange weight in her gaze, as if she carried a secret so heavy it could crush worlds. And he knew one thing. Whatever truth she hid, it was far greater than he imagined.